Warning! Warning! This video contains political things! That is right, everybody. We're diving in to political things because for nearly 30 years, these politicians have gone after video games, of all things, to sidestep other things they don't want to talk about, or just because they're old and don't understand newfangled technology that they just don't bother researching at all, or trying for themselves, or even basic knowledge of these things. It's absolutely absurd to me that these people are dictating where our future goes, and they don't even know simple things like what the video game is that they're blaming for different things. So let's go just dive into some of the history of basically these idiots trying to blame video games to further whatever political cause they're trying to do, or sidestep something else they really just don't want to talk about. For the first instance that I could find, I'm sure there's plenty of other earlier instances of this, we're going to go way back to 1993, and we're going to watch this little clip together.
I know that one place parents want us to draw the line is with violence in video games. The fact is that a new generation of video games crosses that line, containing the most horrible depictions of graphic violence and sex, including particularly violence against women.
This guy is saying these games are horrible in 1993? The graphics were horrible back then, and any game that contains sex was definitely not a mainstream game in 1993. And also, what's up with the violence against women thing? Like, that's so random. I mean, it's okay if it's against men, but it's not okay if it's against women. Shouldn't it just not be okay for anybody to get hurt? Here's another clip from the 90s that, again, is just, it's just so off with what their message is supposed to be and what video games are supposed to be.
Violent video games are harmful to our children, and at a time when we need to cultivate morality in our society, these games, like too much of what we see on television and at the movies, teach our children all the wrong values. And in my opinion, they should not be on the market.
Games aren't teaching anyone anything. Games are not a teaching method. I mean, they have educational games, but that's what those are for specifically. Just like there are educational books and educational movies and stuff like that. But not all games have to be teaching somebody something. Why can't it just be for entertainment? Now, Hillary Clinton and the Clintons have had a long history of hating violent video games. I mean, they have so many different speeches, but I chose this one in particular because of the pure absurdity of it all.
I'm here today as a parent and a senator, and along with my colleagues and so many of the advocates from around the country, we are determined to stop a situation in which video games with pornographic and violent content are being peddled to our children. Today, I'm announcing, along with my colleagues, Senator Lieberman and Bai, the Family Entertainment Protection Act.
Any law with the word family attached to it has me deeply concerned from the start. Because anytime they do that, it's just going to have the gullible parents that aren't going to do any research on their own just immediately support it. It's so messed up that they just constantly do this sort of thing in politics. Also, how is it specifically being peddled to children? I mean, I get it's a game, and I guess they just think all games are for children. I disagree strongly, but how is it being peddled to specifically children? They never answer that, ever, in any of these videos.
This bill will prohibit the sale of violent and sexually explicit video games to minors, and will give parents the tools they need to make informed decisions.
Informed decisions? Oh, you mean like the ESRB, which already does that?
Now, as the holiday season is upon us, this is a particularly important time to raise awareness of this issue. Video games are hot holiday items, and I understand that. They are certainly entertaining and even educational in many instances. They can help our children learn, they can increase hand and eye coordination.
I sincerely doubt that you have either played a game or even seen a game being played in front of you in your entire life. And what's up again with the whole educational thing? Can you get off that? Because maybe these games are for, I don't know, fun? Do you even know what fun is?
But it is also clear that there are games that are just not appropriate for children. And busy parents are looking for some guidance all the time, but especially during this hectic holiday season.
This again, I know I just mentioned this, but again, this is the job of the ESRB, and they do this thing called listing every single thing that might be offensive on the box. It's on the box. It's really easy to see.
Now, as you can see from the posters that we have displayed here, many games contain content that is deeply disturbing. It's almost routine in popular games for players to spray other people with Uzis, to drive over pedestrians, to kill police officers, to attack women.
You might as well just say Grand Theft Auto. I mean, after saying all the things you just listed, just say Grand Theft Auto. You don't want kids playing Grand Theft Auto. That's all you have to say. And again, with the whole emphasis on women, because killing men's just fine.
And in some cases, even to engage in cannibalism.
Also, what game had cannibalism back in 2005? Like, what mainstream game had cannibalism? I don't think you are playing anything or have done any research.
Players commit gruesome acts like these using top-of-the-line graphics in stunningly realistic detail.
I like how, again, I have to keep saying the year that this was set in, 2005. She is saying that the graphics are stunningly real and they're so graphic. Like, do you remember what the graphics looked like back in 2005? She must be just freaking out now for how the graphics are.
Now, it is up to adults whether they wish to expose themselves to this type of violence and pornography. But we have 40 years of research to tell us that violent media is bad for our children.
No, you don't. Because not even to this day has research been conclusive to show this. In fact, most research has pointed to the fact that video games and violence, they don't correlate at all. Normal functioning people are not affected by this sort of thing. So saying things like it's a fact when it's not, that's called a lie. So you should probably not do that.
According to the most comprehensive statistical analysis yet conducted, violent video games increase aggressive behavior as much as lead exposure decreases children's IQ scores. And I want people to think about that. Everybody knows lead poisoning is bad for children. I want everybody to know that exposure to violent video games is also bad for children.
Is she seriously comparing lead poisoning with video games? How is that even remotely close to the same thing? I mean, there's no logical rationale as to how those are the same thing. I get you're trying to say, oh, well, it's harming children. No, not like lead poisoning, which lowers your IQ and does infinitely other things up to including death.
There was testimony before the Senate Commerce Committee in 2000 that playing video games, violent video games, accounts for a 13 to 22% increase in teenagers' violent behavior.
Now, I actually looked up this study that they're talking about here because I don't want to sound like an idiot, and I'm actually doing research, unlike these people. And the thing is about how they measured aggression. Let me read this. They measured how their aggression increased by having them punish their opponent with a quote-unquote noise blast with varying intensity. What kind of measurement for aggression is that? I feel like 90% of you guys watching right now would do that just because it would be funny. That's ridiculous. That's how you're measuring people's aggression? By like, okay, now we're going to have you blast your opponent with noise that you just... I didn't finish my sentence. Seriously, this has nothing to do with violence at all. And this is what they're basing all of these arguments on, an outdated study that is completely full of variables, and it's nonsensical to me that they take these studies with any more than a grain of salt, because they're just so full of problems and issues, and it's just a hypothesis that you know they wanted to reach at the end so badly.
Yet we know that such games are easily accessible. A recent study by the National Institute on Media and the Family found that children between the ages of 9 and 14 were able to purchase M-rated video games nearly 50% of the time. Furthermore, nearly a quarter of retailers didn't even understand the ratings they were supposed to enforce. And only half of the stores surveyed train employees in the use of the ratings.
I always wonder how they get these statistics. I mean, politicians regularly just spout a bunch of stats, and because they're using percentages, oh, it must be real, it must be real, it sounds so real because they're using percentages. No, it doesn't sound real to me at all anymore. I don't remember taking part in these surveys. Any of them, ever. Any of these surveys that have ever been quoted, well, this many percentages of this group. I'm like, I'm part of that group, and I've never been surveyed. I don't understand where they're getting these surveys.
Well, we need to do better, and that's why we're introducing the Family Entertainment Protection Act. And let me be very, very clear. This legislation is not about government censorship or regulation of content. Quite simply, it is about protecting children and empowering parents.
Think of the children! They're always just going to use that as the argument. Think of the children. Don't think about how lazy the parents are that they can't look at this. It's right there. It's so easy. Rated M. Why is it rated M? Oh, it tells you. Holy crap.
We need to treat violent video games the way we treat tobacco, alcohol, and pornography. We know that these products are damaging to children, and we need to give parents the tools to keep them out of kids' hands.
Yeah, again though, the rest of these examples besides porn are physically damaging children, like physically, irreversibly damaging children. You can look at it. It's been studied. You can see the effects right before your eyes as to what is happening. But what? Cartoon violence is going to be doing this? Are you serious? Apples to oranges. Once again, completely different. What kind of argument is this?
If you put it just really simply, these violent video games are stealing the innocence of our children. And it is certainly making the job of being a parent even more difficult. So the time has come to put on the brakes and to just insist that parents know what material is in the video games their children play, and to pass laws with real teeth that will send a clear message that we really do mean business.
No. Children steal the innocence from other children. And also, with this whole children are innocent thing, I don't know if she's ever been to school before, but in my experience, children are not that innocent. They're pretty vicious. I mean, you see any movie, and it even shows how vicious these kids are. And it's real. Kids will bully somebody just for being slightly different. The government continuing to become more of a nanny state, that's not a good thing. Parents just need to be parents. And I feel like that's the main issue, is that parents are just, I don't know, they're just stupid, I guess. Now, here is a clip of a man that has absolutely no idea what he's talking about.
I think video games is a bigger problem than guns, because video games affect people.
Mr. Alexander, what you've said is one of the most idiotic things I've ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone watching this video is now dumber for having listened to it, and may God have mercy on your soul. Here's a clip from somebody who definitely doesn't have an agenda, and that's the leader of the NRA.
And here's another dirty little truth that the media try their best to conceal. There exists in this country, sadly, a callous, corrupt, and corrupting shadow industry that sells and stows violence against its own people through vicious, violent video games with names like Bulletstorm, Grand Theft Auto, Mortal Kombat, and Splatterhouse. And here's one. It's called Kindergarten Killers. It's been online for 10 years.
Okay, so he has so many things that are wrong, I didn't want to interrupt his wrongness. So let's go ahead and just break down every single thing that he said that was completely wrong. So he says Bulletstorm. Bulletstorm is a game about killing mutants on another planet. Mortal Kombat is a fantasy fighting game that is not realistic in the slightest. What are the other games he mentioned? Oh yeah, Splatterhouse. That has the player killing demons and monsters. So again, what do those games have to do with people? Seriously, I mean, do your research. Again, it shows he has done zero research, and any point he is trying to make is completely null and void because of it. And kindergarten killers? Really? Anybody can make anything and post it on the internet. This is not a mainstream game that is coming out for the Xbox. This is just something that some random person online made and put on the internet. And saying how long it's been on the internet doesn't mean anything. Do you want to censor the internet? Is that what you want? And here's a clip from our current president and what he thinks about violent video games.
The video games, the movies, the internet stuff is so violent. It's so incredible. I see it. I get to see things that you'd be amazed at.
You see it? We'd be amazed? I don't think anybody's amazed at this point. Everybody can see it. Everybody can see it. It's very easy to see it. It's in commercials. What do you mean, have we seen it? What are we supposed to be amazed about?
I have a very young son who I look at some of the things he's watching and I say, how is that possible? And this is what kids are watching.
Now, is your kid watching or playing video games? Because both of these things you can control as a parent. Whoa! Here's another clip of Trump where he's not only going after violent video games, he's also going after violent movies. Which, really? Movies? Aren't we kind of past that now? What does he have to say about movies?
We have to do something about maybe what they're seeing and how they're seeing it, and also video games. I'm hearing more and more people say the level of violence on video games is really shaping young people's thoughts.
Oh, you heard it, huh? So it must be true.
And then you go the further step, and that's the movies. You see these movies, they're so violent, and yet a kid is able to see the movie if sex isn't involved, but killing is involved, and maybe they have to put a rating system for that. And you get into a whole very complicated, very big deal. But the fact is that you are having movies come out that are so violent with the killing and everything else that maybe that's another thing we're going to have to discuss. And a lot of people are saying it. You have these movies today where you can go and have a child see the movie, and yet it's so violent and so disgusting. So we may have to talk about that also.
No. Movies are frequently rated R for just violence. There are plenty of movies that are rated R for violence. And guess what? A rated R film, kids can't go see it. They're not allowed in. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because this is something I've been planning for a long time. I've wanted to make a video about this topic for it's happened forever. This has been happening, like I said, almost 30 years now. And the recent news story with Joe Biden and how he called the people in the industry creeps and that they were teaching kids to kill. Okay. I had to make this video. I had to. When you're saying that video games are teaching kids to kill, I mean, that's so off base and ridiculous. This is the year 2020 now, and we're still having this stupid conversation that, again, has had zero evidence that this is a thing. The only thing they've ever been able to say is, oh, it causes more aggression. What does aggression even mean? There are lots of rated E games that have made me feel aggression. Like I want to break the controller in half because a level is pissing me off. But that has nothing to do with me wanting to go out and harm people. For some reason, these politicians are just not understanding modern technology. Now, I will side with him on one thing. I'm sure the people he talk with are creeps because I've done lots of videos in the industry. I mean, that's kind of what we've been seeing. But teaching kids how to kill with these violent video games, that's absurd. And the fact that this person is trying to become our president, come on. Like, I'm so sick of these people, these old people coming in, clueless, just spouting things as facts that have not been proven or have been proven the opposite. And now we're going to have he's trying to, again, be our leader? No. None of these people involved in politics seem to know what the hell is going on. And it's just shocking. I feel like they have to. It's their job to know what's going on, especially in the most popular form of media, the form of media that makes the most amount of money. And it's not new anymore. I mean, how do you not know about this stuff? How have you not done your own research? And when they say, oh, we need more research done, there are so many different studies out there. And like I said, most of them are pointing to the fact that they do not correlate at all. It's all because they're trying to dodge these other issues, or they just don't understand the medium. Ignorance is not an excuse to just spout lies. And I'm so sick of politicians on both sides going on about video games. After all these years, you think they'd know what they're talking about, and they'd get informed about topics that they're trying to have a conversation about, but instead, they're just re-saying the same things over and over and over. I mean, at one point, Biden wanted to have a tax on violent video games. I mean, they're just looking for any reason to steal our money. It just makes me sad. You know, and that's the main reason I made this video, is because I feel like our leaders should know what the hell they're talking about. If you found this video too political, I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense to me. I am not on any side of the political spectrum, and if I was, this video certainly isn't. I've looked at both sides evenly, and I think they're both stupid. So basically, my message is this. Politicians, please stop. You're not helping. You're not doing anything. Just focus on other things. There's so many other things that are more important besides trying to take away another piece of entertainment. You've tried to censor the movie industry. You've tried to censor the music industry. And now you're trying to ruin the game industry. Could you stop trying to mess with the things that make us happy? Could you stop doing that, please? Please? So thanks for watching. And as always, have a fantastic day. See you guys.